We're talking this morning about not the lymphatic system. Everybody knows, heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talking about the glymphatic system. So if you saw the promos yesterday, you're probably saying, what? The glymphatic system. What is the glymphatic system and what does it do?
Well, if simply put, it's the lymphatic system of the brain, but it doesn't function like our regular lymphatic system. That's the key. You know, our lymphatic system is draining all the time. The glymphatic, and they call it glymph because it basically, there's a cell in our brain called glial cells, G-L-I-A-A, or G-L-I-A.
Yeah, that's where the name
glial.
came from.
Yeah, and that's where the name came from. They said, oh, okay, because they found it, that's the pathway that the brain uses to get rid of this extra CSF or cerebrospinal fluid, which is kind of cleaning up the brain.
Right.
And
getting rid of waste and toxins from the brain, which is very important because a buildup of waste and toxins in the brain is what is contributing to Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, all of your neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal because it makes a big difference in all that, which is most of them are really bad.
And like I say, it's in the infancy because, like you just brought up, they only discovered it like in 2012. And now there had been some talk about it. There was a lady back in, in the 70s or early 80s. She kind of hinted at it, but everybody said, "Oh no, she's crazy." You know, typical. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
She don't know what she's talking about. But she talked about it, and yet, you know, she just kind of like, there's something going on here that we don't know what it is. Oh no, we know everything. That's
and
typical.
There's still some controversy over whether
Right.
some people saying, well, we still don't think that is what's going on, although there's more and more research coming out about it. And it makes sense. And there's a lot that we don't know about the brain. The brain is the one area there's probably a lot not known about the body, actually.
Period.
I mean, everybody thinks they know everything, but there's so much that they're coming out with. But even when you look at this system, they're actually tying it to cardiovascular, to gut health, to neurological health, to everything. And so
what always gets me
the
is,
body is
where
a
do
whole.
where do they come up with the names for these things?
Well, they came up with lymphatic
Glymph?
and the glial cells, so
the
glymphatic
glial
system.
okay.
Yeah.
But what I was saying
Well,
is,
they want to differentiate it.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
but it's just another thing that proves the body is a whole. It is not just one part, and your different parts have to work together to have overall health. And it is an epidemic. Memory problems, brain problems, Parkinson's. I mean, there is so much increase in all that area, which is why they're looking at it more.
Yeah.
And so we thought people needed to know what it was.
And some of the things you can do about it.
do about it. Yeah.
That's the key. You know, because everybody talk. We hear this all the time. So something about and you'll see the headlines or something about the amyloid beta.
Yep.
Which is
or the tau protein.
Or the tau protein, which is that's Alzheimer's. No, not really. Those are actually things that are made in our brain every day. Even the smartest, most if you will, the farthest away from any kind of dimension you could think of, the brain's working perfectly. It's making tau proteins and it's making the beta amyloid.
Right,
So
but it's about building up.
Right. But the brain had to have a way to wash it out. Notice, how does the brain cleanse itself? Okay, we got all this byproduct of metabolism, tau proteins, amyloid beta. It got all this stuff going on in there. So how does the body get rid of it? And that's where this glymphatic thing came up. And
that was going to be a question. How do you clean the system?
Well,
stuff out of your system?
Numero uno, sleep.
Sleep is when they say is the biggest time where they see that the body cleans the brain.
Now that's sleep without something.
Yes, they actually, all your research when you read about it, this is medical research, it's not just somebody's opinion, it is actually non-pharmaceutical sleep.
Yes.
And when they say non-pharmaceutical sleep, it's taking a sleeping pill and knocking yourself out does not count. And they find a lot of your sleeping pills and a lot of the things that make you sleep, even over the counter, everything that says PM, which is diphenylhydramine hydrochloride, most of it increases dementia. So it doesn't make your brain clean itself the way it should.
Right.
And so when we're talking about sleep, we're not saying, go get a sleeping pill. We're saying you got to start changing your activities of daily living, your routines, what you do, all to help with that sleep to help clean the brain.
I remember after Katrina, I had everything that went through. I had a hard time sleeping.
Yep.
Everybody
So
did.
the doctor put me on one of those.
That was extreme stress.
pharmaceutical. I won't give the name, but put me on one of those sleeping medications and everything. And one night I was talking to a young lady that I was involved with, and I told her, I said, well, let me take my pill so I can go to sleep. She's like, and fortunately she was a nurse, and she's like, do what? She said, no, you don't need to be taking those. Get rid of them now. So I got rid of them.
Totally agree.
It took me about a week.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to start going back to sleep on my own.
And sleep is a hard thing. I've been one that's been an insomniac my whole life, which is why I do everything in the world to help with sleep.
And that is a fact.
And it really is. I do everything.
Trust me.
I mean, I really do. I mean, I even have a cooling pad on my bed. We have it a wedge.
Her side cools, my side warm.
Okay. Yeah, we do. I do everything for sleep because it is so important. And my mom and grandma did not sleep, and they both had dementia. So it definitely is part of it. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about is sleep and the patterns, and also other things that you can do to help with the cleaning out the brain.
Yeah.
Wow. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about the glymphatic system. If it's new to you, like it was to me, and you have questions, pick up the phone and give us a call. Or if you have any questions about anything regarding your health, I know we're talking about this in general, but if you have anything else you want to ask regarding your health or someone else's, please feel free to. We'll talk about the different things that you can do naturally to help the glymphatic system in just a moment. I know you'll have some great things going on there.
Oh yeah, there's
Excuse me.
Actually so far, even though it's kind of in its infancy, there's some really good research coming out. Now they've done a lot of it on the animals, mice and so on in particular, but at the same time, they've been able to do some pretty weird stuff with these poor little mice and come up with some really good data as to what effects it can have and how we can affect that cleaning up and so on.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
896-0713 or 800-349-0713. 8 minutes after 9 o'clock here on this Monday. We're talking about the glymphatic system. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. And welcome back. It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're talking about the glymphatic system on this week's edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Who's the most at risk for having these problems?
You know, there's a couple of groups. One, as we age, anybody is at risk. I mean, that's the key.
Aging is an increased risk.
Yeah, aging.
But aging is something that you have to do.
I mean, it's either that when you stop having birthdays,
That's not
it's
good.
not
really,
good.
Yeah, not good.
So if you're going to age,
You need to do stuff that it takes to help it.
Because
So-
they find that the young people, young mice, young people, even when they sleep, they go into a deeper sleep, a better sleep. I mean, teenagers, for instance, they can sleep all day sometimes. Things like that. So they tend to get enough sleep, and that's when the brain really does the cleaning process of cleaning itself up. And that's the biggest key right there. So when you age and you don't sleep that well, or you got a lot of stress in your life, that kind of thing, whatever.
Stress has actually been shown to be a
huge.
big risk factor. Obesity is a big risk factor.
Right.
Not sleeping well is a big risk factor in itself, and sedentary.
Right.
The more sedentary you are, the worse it seems to drain. So
Right.
you need the pumping action.
Yes.
And they've known that for years, even when it comes to some of the Alzheimer's research. It's like, what's one of the best things you can do? And it is exercise.
Right.
So sleep and exercise tend to be the absolute best thing.
Is it better
that you
to
can do.
exercise in the morning or in the evening?
There's different opinions out there.
I was gonna say
and I always say, if it comes down to it, some people's schedules don't allow one or the other, so it's whenever you can do it.
Yeah.
It's
Just important
better
to
to
do
do it. Exactly, it's better to do it. And they say as little as 15 to 20 minutes a day.
Right.
So you want to do some. You don't have to do 3 hours. You don't have to do this huge amount of exercise. You want to do some, and you want to move around. So the thing is moving. So as people age, they tend to move less and less, and so that does actually increase the risk. So, and actually eating a lot of sugar and processed food, they've shown to increase the risk as well. So your diabetics are always at risk for everything. I mean, really, if you look, diabetes increases risk for everything, which is why it's so important to control diabetes, to change your diet, to eat right, to exercise. But I mean, we say that every day.
Right. Are there supplements that you can use to help with
Yes, there are.
One of the biggies that they found in some of the research, something called phosphatidylserine. Okay,
Yep.
and what that does is that at night when we go to sleep, it lowers the epinephrine
And the cortisol.
and the cortisol and noradrenaline, whatever. So you're lowering these excitatory compounds.
Yeah.
And that's a big key, because when we start to lower those compounds, now the brain can relax, the arteries can relax, and it depends on the pumping action from the arteries to pump some of this fluid around in that brain. And it's really important. And one of the biggies that they've come up with in humans is sleep apnea. And
for a risk factor.
And for a risk factor. And a lot of people think, well, only certain people have sleep apnea. And I'll admit medicine has a real jaded opinion of that. And I'm a prime example. I'm 6 feet tall, weigh about 140 if I'm wet.
You don't weigh that much.
That's if you wet me down. Okay. But anyhow, and so I'm not the quote unquote profile for the standard sleep apnea. And yet,
when he did his was severe. And he said it was like a 500-pound man.
Yeah.
His sleep apnea. But now he has it completely under control and he does something for it.
And that's one of the best things we can do.
Right.
There.
And so the thing is you want to treat your sleep apnea. You do want to get your exercise and sleep. And now when it comes to sleep, what can you do to help your sleep? For one, you need to go to bed at the same time every day, wake up at the same time every morning.
Regardless of whether it's Monday through Friday.
I do that because I'm usually in bed between 8:30 and 9, and I'm up at 5:30.
Yeah, sleep patterns, they know, are so important. And of course, limiting computer use before bedtime, which a lot of people do that, and a lot of people are guilty. He's guilty of it,
I'm guilty.
Computer use before you go to bed.
And that includes your iPhone.
So, so that's one thing they have said makes a big difference in your sleep quality. Keeping the house cool enough. They've definitely proven it makes you sleep better if it's cooler.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things just to help that pattern. And then, one of the supplements he did not mention yet is omega-3.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Omega-3 is one of the biggest ones been researched for the glymphatic system. And they've known for years that it affects those proteins that we talked about. So they know that. But the omega-3s make a huge difference. And we know from doing the omega check, which I've said before, we have a test called an omega check. And it looks at how much omega-3 the body has. We have never had anybody that had normal levels that didn't take omega-3 at a high dose.
Yeah.
What you get from the big box stores at one a day do not even come close to touching it. So we have a higher dose omega-3, and when people take 4 of ours a day, which is still, it's a high dose, and they take 4, we've never had anybody that didn't have a normal omega-3 check. So it does make a difference what you take. So the omega-3s make a difference, the phosphatidylserine makes a difference, like I said, exercise, sleep.
Sleep. Let's talk about sleep for just a moment. Okay. What is the best position?
Yes, that's a good question
So,
because they've actually found it makes
we talked about this one time a few weeks ago.
Yep, it makes a difference. Laying on your right side
laying on my
helps
right side.
The drainage of the brain.
And it's because
I'm more comfortable laying on my left side.
Oh well, yeah.
Now the left side helps digestion better.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any problem with that.
But right side helps the brain better.
And it's all about the internal organs and what kind of pressure,
and the pressure they have. And laying on your back is not what you should do to clean the brain out.
No. It's the worst position.
Yes,
because it can't drain out of your nose or anything.
I don't know.
Well, it's really bad.
Believe it or not, the sleep position makes a difference.
And they did this study with these little mice, and they'd have mice that would just lay down, I guess, and sleep, and they were using what we call a traceable protein that they put in they injected in their poor little guy's brain, and they could take a PET scan and actually see it move around the body. So that's how they see how this works. And then they took the guys the mouse, and they lay them on one side. Once they sleep, they kind of make sure they go over to one side, and they found that position made a huge difference. The ones that slept on their side had much better lymphatic drainage than the ones that slept, or even on their back, or
So if you're at risk and have the risk factors, try to lay on your right side. I do. I try to. I try most of the night. I can't say all, but I'm either on my left or my right. But mostly, I try to stay on my right because of that.
Yeah.
And so I have been doing it. Like I said, I have the higher risk factors, so I actually do.
And something that would give up some of our secrets here. She mentioned the hot and cold side of the bed.
Yeah.
I sleep on the hot side.
Yeah,
warm
I sleep
side.
on the cold
Ice warm.
side.
It's not hot. Okay. Because it's like an ice box over there. I'm serious. I mean, I'm serious. But another thing that we've done, and this is something that
it does help.
It really helps. I was amazed myself. We inclined the bed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Put a wedge, not talking about from head to toe.
Right.
It's about a 7-inch lift.
It just
at the
goes
head.
under the whole mattress.
Yeah.
And you can't even tell us because I can't. If I feel like I'm inclined, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
So you can't even hardly tell you're doing it. But he has the sleep apnea machine that actually measures even he was way better already, went way down more when we actually inclined the bed.
All right,
Yep.
we're going to talk more about that
Yep.
in just a moment. 18 minutes after 9 o'clock, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Excuse me, we'll take a break. We'll come back with this week's special. And welcome back. 20 minutes after 9 o'clock is our final segment. Let's go ahead. We actually have two specials for you this week. How about that? It's like Christmas time.
It is Christmas time in summer, right?
Yeah.
June. Yeah. For the first one, we're talking about, and we've talked about this ad infinitum, the omega-3s. Gosh, everybody needs this stuff. This week we got it for 25% off. Get started on it.
I take them every day.
Like I said,
it
it's
helps
great
not
for the
only
brain.
the brain, it's the heart. I mean, everything in your
Everything.
body depends on this stuff happening. So it's a great anti-inflammatory, you name it.
Helps kidney function, so
Yeah.
it does do a lot.
Yeah, so it's probably one of the biggies, especially one of the big supplements you can take for the brain, for sure.
Right.
And our other deal of the week, the special of the week,
is, and we hadn't talked about the benefits of it yet for the glymphatic system, but we're fixing to, is red light therapy. It's regular $250 for 10 visits, and this week it is $200 for 10 visits.
Right.
So it makes it $20 a time. And when it comes to red light therapy, there is so much research out there with the glymphatic system in the brain. They've actually, even though it's only been out 10 years, there's tons of research coming out on red light anyway. And so what they call photobiomodulation, which is red light therapy, and it can be done like with the beds, like what we have. It can be done with laser, which is, we also have a laser, but we do most of ours, like for brain and stuff like that, would be to do the full body in the bed. And a lot of the research done on it says you really probably should do 3 times a week for 8 weeks, and then do a maintenance, because you do have to maintain it. You can't have it ain't gonna be the effects forever. But, and a lot of people may have been seeing recently on, even in the internet, it's been all over how flickering light helps with the brain. Well, that's part of the red light. If you're doing it for brain function, we use a low setting, which the light does flicker. Now, some of the pain settings, they do not, but the low levels, you have flickering light. But it is amazing, the research coming out on how it affects the brain. And we do it most of the time at 40 hertz, which is at what the research is showing.
Well, let me ask you this. Talking about the flickering light, how about if someone has epilepsy?
If epilepsy, we cannot do it.
Can't do it.
So
Okay.
you can't do flickering
So I wanna check
lights
on
in
that.
people with seizures or a seizure disorder. We can do a little bit higher settings, which will still benefit, because they've even found just that spectrum of the red light and infrared light has benefits, even without the flickering. So we can still do red light on somebody with seizure disorder. We just cannot make it flicker. Now, the people that cannot get in it at all is somebody with an organ transplant, because red light therapy definitely increases the immune system, and you don't want to increase the immune system with someone that has an organ transplant. Now, autoimmune problems, you can use it. So we use it a lot in autoimmune. So you can use it for that. You just can't use it if you, really organ transplants, and you can't do the low setting if you have seizures. But it is amazing, and we've seen some amazing things in people that get in it that do have like the Parkinson's symptoms and the dementia, and it makes a huge difference. And the thing is you got to do it consistently. So that's one of the things, is you got to kind of live close, unfortunately for that one, because you got to be able to get in it. Or you can order panels for your own home. And of course, the panels for your own home aren't quite as strong, but it's still better than nothing. And they're even starting to make helmets for people with Parkinson's. They're doing all kind of stuff out there because of how beneficial red light is showing to be for the brain. And so if you have any risk factors, and you have, I mean, it really does make a difference. We have people that get in it with anxiety that instantly they start like, oh my God, that makes a difference.
Probably fall asleep.
It does. Well, some people do. And you only get in it 10 minutes at a time.
I do.
So you do get in it for 10 minutes. Ours is a very strong
But that's a good
bed.
power nap, isn't it?
Oh, it's, I mean, really, seriously.
Like I said,
What wakes me up when it goes off.
Ours is a really strong bed. And so 10 minutes is what they call the maximum daily dosage, you know. So that is people are always like, can I do 30 minutes? Well, no, they say that the 10 minutes is what you want to do on this. You can do less, but you really want 10 minutes. Yep.
Okay, all right. How is it, I mean, we're talking about what this does for people with a glymphatic system not properly taking care of it, you know, as far as Alzheimer's is concerned.
Yeah, you're increasing your chances. If your brain don't clean itself out, then it actually increases your chances for dementia, Parkinson's,
Any memory.
Alzheimer's.
And you know, this
Any
is
memory
so
illnesses.
new, like you said, well, 2012, but first I'd ever heard of it, whenever we did the promo last week, you said the glymphatic.
Yeah. Well, that's because they're not really pushing it, you know.
But you try to clean out everybody else. I mean, clean out everything else in your body. It's like, why not the brain? Somebody called in with a question, does krill oil have the same omega-3 as fish oil?
Well, it's the same omega-3s.
Yes.
It just has less of it. You know,
Now,
krill,
it is more absorbable.
there's the case. There's always an up and a down on both things.
There is. But to me, the biggest problem with krill, and it's not a problem. If you want to do krill, that's fine. But that 500 milligrams that everybody's doing is not enough.
No, it
and
takes a
krill
lot more
gets
than that.
really expensive to take the high doses.
Right.
So that's why we always say omega-3 is the fish oil. But you can definitely, I take krill, but I take a lot. And I mean, it's expensive. But I don't tolerate fish oil well, so I do the krill because I know it's so important for the brain. So yes, you can do krill. You do get the omega-3s, but it just takes a much higher dose, even though it is more absorbable.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you take krill if you have a shellfish allergy?
No.
No.
Okay. Just
Now, if you have a shellfish allergy, you can't take krill, but you can take the fish oil, as long as you don't have a fish allergy. So I mean, like I said, there's different things, and we have to deal with different people different ways, and that's what we're there for, to answer questions.
And see, that's one of the great things about going to doctor's nutrition is, you first of all, you don't need an appointment. You might have to wait a few minutes just to get in there, but there's no charge for a consultation.
Yep.
And questions like these, if they can answer, do you have an allergy to shellfish? Yes. Well, you can't take krill oil.
Right.
And other things. I mean, just like you can't when it comes to 5-HTP. If you're taking any other kind of antidepressants or anything like that, you can't take 5-HTP.
Right. There's certain
All these
things you
things that
can't
I've
take together.
learned in the 10 years we've been doing this show together.
Well, that was our whole concept 28 years ago when we started. People go into a health food store somewhere,
Right.
and they want to buy some vitamin C. Well, what's the best kind? I mean, and how much do I really need? That's the key. There's a lot of different types and kinds, if you will, formulations of just plain old vitamin C.
And speaking of types and kinds, next
Types and
week
kinds.
we are going to be talking about magnesium, and we get a lot of questions on what the different types of magnesiums are and what they're for. And magnesium was one of the supplements we didn't get to in the show that has definitely been shown to be beneficial for the glymphatic system. They show magnesium as one of the best things for at night before you go to bed to help the brain and the brain clean out. So actually next week, the whole show is on magnesium and types of magnesium and what the different types are for, because we get that question every day.
Yeah. And on this glymphatic thing, one of the other big ones, stay hydrated.
Yeah, drink a lot of water.
A lot of water.
Well, it's that time of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
all the heat and everything.
Water,
definitely.
exercise, and sleep.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning on this morning's show. We will see you again next Monday morning with another edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.